Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2020 show. We are once again and still at the Grant King Race Shops at 8155 Crawfordsville Road. If and when things open up, you need to come by here and take a look at this place. It's quite amazing. It is called a working museum. So if you want to come down, give them a call to make sure they're going to be here. They have other businesses. The number to call is 317-820-3595. Today's show is presented by Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, SVRA, and McGilvery's Pub and Eatery and Speedway. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about the HPD and the company's racing product lines, please visit hpd.honda.com. Everybody loves to go see a dentist. Well, I can tell you how to make that a pleasant visit. The Indy Dental Group. Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Milner and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a phenomenal practice, one of the highest rated in the state. Make an appointment, give them a call. The number is 317-846-6125. Do you have trouble with computers? I know I do. We have a new computer guy. It's an A-plus affordable computer doctor. Why is he a doctor? Like in the old days when I was a kid, he makes house calls. His name is Steve Freeze. Give him a call, talk to him about your problem. If need be, he can stop by. Number is 317-328-0766. Have you ever wondered what it's like to drive your favorite race car on your favorite racetrack? From dirt midgets at the Chili Bowl to a Formula One car at Nuremberg, Indy Simulation could put you in the driver's seat of their Sim Experience full motion race simulator. Take your choice of over 160 cars and tracks in iRacing, the same simulation professional drivers use to race their real world rivals. Learn more about tracks and stay sharp between races. Visit indysim.com. That's indysim.com today and book your free demonstration ride. Don't forget, you can take a ride on a racetrack in a two-seater and they go pretty quick. At the Speedway, they run around to 180 miles an hour. Take a ride in a two-seater. See what these guys and gals love about driving the cars. You can go to indyracingexperience.com and log in, find a date that'll work for you. And in the promo box, put DK1, you get a 50% discount. Or you can call the office. Number is 317-243-7171 and ask for Shonda. Is it time to renew your insurance for your car, your home, or your commercial property? Do what most of us have done. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. Talk to him, tell him what you're looking for. He'll help you out. You get more coverage for less money. Number is 317-248-0070. If you have a vintage car that needs to be restored or you would like to get one, the Grant King Shop is a place to come. They can help you on both sides. Number is 317-820-3595. Tell them what you have or what you'd like to get. They'll help you make it happen. Are you a vintage car or a Trans Am fan? You need to subscribe to the SVRA's Speed Tour magazine. Just go to svra.com and subscribe. It's a great magazine, first class, and it tells you when you go to a particular location of event, places to see, restaurants to go to, that cover it all. Great pictures, great stories. Go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour, and while you're there, check their schedule, see where they're going to be appearing next. My guest today is a man who has become one of the more popular drivers in the series today. He came through the ladder program. He's got 6 wins in the IndyCar Series. He's had some problems, but he's recovered from them. In fact, turned back after a very serious accident. He started up on the pole in the Indianapolis 500. He's got a part-time ride this year, and when he's not driving, you'll see him on television. Please welcome the mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe. James, thanks for joining us today. I certainly appreciate it.
Of course, Don. Thanks for having me on, bud.
What's it like for you as a driver? I know, when the accident you had was very serious, but you said all along, almost from the first day, I'll be back, and you were. And you qualified on the 500 on the pole in the 500 the following year. What is it about you guys that you go through traumatic experiences like you do, but you still want to get back in the car?
Well, I think we're wired wrong, Don. I don't think we're that bright. That's the problem. Most people, when they go through something like that, would try to stay away from whatever it was that put them there, but that's just not how our brains work. And so, for me, it was never a question of if I wanted to get into the car. It was a question of when and how soon I'd be able to do it.
Are you suffering anything now from that incident?
No, I mean, I was so lucky in so many ways, in that whole deal how bizarre and a 1 in a million kind of accident that was. There was 100 things that had to happen just wrong for me to have that accident and get injured the way that I did. But there was 1,000 things that had to go just right for me to not only survive it, but not only be able to walk again, be able to drive again, and have really no lasting side effects from the accident at all. And so rather than, focusing on the things that went wrong, I always think about all the things that had to go right and all the people that helped, keep me alive and get me back into the race car, which I was able to do 4 months after the accident. So, it's incredible when you actually look at it, what all did have to go right, and how fortunate I was to have those people around me that were there to take care of me, and that today, I live a normal life and have no lasting effects from it. I got some pretty cool scars, but other than that.
When I first had you on the program, when you first got the IndyCar, and I don't remember if I talked to you when you were running lights, but you were
Sure
young,
did.
yeah, okay. And you were a young single guy bopping around. Now you're a married man. Has your life changed dramatically? I mean, is your wife concerned about you when you strap in?
Oh yeah, I think that comes with the territory. It can't be easy. I give a lot of credit to all the partners of all the drivers, in professional motorsports. It doesn't matter what series it is. Racing is inherently dangerous, no matter what kind of cars you're driving or what track you're driving on. And to be a partner of a driver is definitely something that takes a special breed of person, and to not just accept it, but be supportive. As a driver, you need someone in your corner that is going to help you, is going to support you, is going to push you in the right ways, is going to pick you up when you're down, is going to keep you level if you're getting, too ahead of yourself, kind of thing. And it really is, your best friend and your partner that really helps do that. And Becky has been, incredible through the whole thing. It was my accident that kind of reconnected us. We had gone to high school together and kind of went our separate ways. And she reached back out after my accident to see how I was doing and everything. And that's sort of how the connection started again. And here we are, 5 years later, happily married. And she knew the risks kind of getting involved with me from the beginning. It's not like I was a, accountant when we met and decided to take up professional racing. So she's kind of accepted it and is very supportive for sure.
How did you get started? What started you getting a race car and say, this is what I want to do?
I was always a huge fan of it. My dad's a big fan of motorsports, and we grew up watching Formula One and watching IndyCar, watching NASCAR, all of it. And I've got an older brother and an older sister, and neither one of them cared a lick about racing. But third time's a charm, I guess. And Dad finally got his little race van with him, so he had his bus Sundays watching races, and we had the IndyCar race in Toronto. Ever since it started the year I was born, so I've been to almost every single one of those. And I was just always a huge fan. And for my 9th birthday, my dad got me a go-kart, and that's kind of how it started. It was all downhill from there.
I met your parents, and I believe is at Loudon. Your mother was walking out, and she had a shirt on, James Hinchcliffe, and I walked up and said, excuse me, since you're the only one in this place, it was a restaurant with the Hinchcliffe, let me guess that you maybe are his mother. And she said, yes. How did you know? Well, the shirt kind of first off kicked it off. We talked quite a bit, very interesting people and very supportive of what you're doing.
No doubt. I mean, you couldn't get into this sport without a tremendous support system, especially as a kid. And the time spent and the money spent and the sacrifices made to kind of make it all happen, traveling all over the country, going go-karting, for 6 or 7 years, and then that transition up into race cars and just trying to pursue that dream, it's purely impossible to do on your own. And so the first people in your corner is going to be your family. And I was so lucky to have, parents that were supportive of it. I mean, you talk about Becky being worried when I strap in the car. I don't think there's anybody that's more worried than my mother, and she's been dealing with it for, how I've been doing this now, over 20 years. So I've probably given her a couple gray hairs, in my career, but no matter what, even through it all, through my accident, through everything, through all the, all the ups and downs, highs and lows that we've been through as a family through this sport, never once was that support questioned, or never once did it waver. And, that's really what's kind of helped push me to want to be successful at this level and continue at this level.
Well, it was announced that Arrow McLaren SP had severed ties with you, which I thought was something of a surprise, at least to me. Was there any doubt in your mind that you at some point would pick up a ride, that somebody would step up and realize what you bring to the table as a person, as well as a driver?
Yeah, at the risk of sounding, a little bold, no. I know I've got a lot left to offer in IndyCar, on track and off, and I think everyone, in the paddock sees it the same way. It was an unfortunate set of circumstances, and the really difficult part about that was the timing of it. Had they made their decision, earlier in the calendar year when we sort of first started discussing it, it wouldn't have been a problem. I had teams offering me rides at that point, but they delayed and played games and kind of through their actions kept me off the grid full time for 2020. But it is what it is, and I was thrown a huge lifeline by Genesys and Andretti Autosport and Petro Canada and all of our partners that stayed with us or joined us as a result of what happened. And now I'm back with an organization that I raced with in 2012 to 2014, who I had a great stint there, and we only split because of sponsor circumstances. It wasn't a desire for me to leave or for them to get rid of me. That was just an unfortunate set of circumstances in itself. So a different set of unfortunate circumstances allowed us to get back together, which is something we've been talking about and trying to do for the 5 years I was gone. So it was it's kind of one of those door closes, window opens sort of situations. And now we're in a good spot. We're happy where we're at. Obviously, we'd like to be doing more races, but that's nature of the beast, and we're working very hard on being back full time in 2021.
Well, the fortunate part for the fans that watch on television is you may not be in a car as in this coming weekend at Iowa for 2 races, but you will be in an air-conditioned booth, 6 feet away from Paul Tracy and 6 feet away from Lee Diffie, and you'll be able to call a race and watch it. When you're doing that, when you were walking pit road yesterday and Saturday, did the urge to, geez, I'd love to jump in that car and drive it? Is it hard for you to be on the outside looking in?
It's for sure, because the decision to not be in the car isn't mine at this point. At some point, many years down the road, I hope to be able to make that decision myself, and then hopefully transition into the broadcasting side, and then I think it'll be a little bit easier. But even heading into St. Pete, I think I was in a little bit of a better headspace about it because it was expected. That's what we talked about. We'd always had our 3 races lined up, but it was never to start the season. And with the way everything unfolded, 2020 being the complete dumpster fire that it is, the 2 of the races I had planned were the first 2 races of the season. And so being in the first race and being in the second race, it definitely felt weird showing up to the 3rd race and not being, part of the action. But again, we knew it was coming, and it's all part of it. And if anything, it just, proves to me that my heart's still very much in it. My desire is still very much to be driving those race cars.
The interesting thing is it's very important in this day and age with the technology the way it is to be recognizable. Not necessarily physically, but when your name comes up, they say, oh, I know who that is. And the story of how you came up with the mayor of Hinchtown is quite interesting because you mentioned it to anybody, a couple of people, and I was in Chicago area this weekend, as I told you, And they said, who is your next guest? I said, the mayor of Hinchtown. Oh, James Hinchcliffe. And they're not people that go to the race. They watch them, but they don't go. But they knew it immediately. That to me is what's really needed, is branding yourself, and you've done that superbly.
Thank you. Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a guy that sort of coached me and mentored me, I guess, maybe a better word, on the off track side of this sport, and the importance of, building a brand and being relevant outside of the race car. And we came up with that idea one day in the basement of an office in Ludington, Michigan. And and it's funny how it's sort of taken off. I mean, these days I get introduced as the mayor of Hinchtown probably more often than I do James Hinchcliffe. So I guess it's sort of stuck.
I would say that's a good assessment. Yeah, it has stuck. And it's crucially important because a lot of people don't know names, but they know the mayor of Hinchtown. That they know. Do you, when you see Elio, does he still mention the fact that he won Dancing with the Stars and you were runner-up?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't remind me as often as Alexander Rossi does or Connor Daly does, but then I remind them that they only came fourth in the reality show that they did together in The Amazing Race. So every time they try to bring that up, I got a good comeback for them. But Elio still trumps us all. He's still got that shiny trophy on his mantle.
Well, I have to confess, I watched him and I watched you. I haven't watched it since. I don't even know if it's on anymore. But I thought in my mind, you did one heck of a job, because people don't realize how physically demanding that is.
It is. It's incredibly physically demanding. But, as athletes, we're used to that part. We're used to training hard. We're used to pushing ourselves. It was the mental challenge, and racing is obviously a very mental sport. Any professional sport's a mental sport, but trying to learn a brand new skill. When we go to the racetrack and do a test day, you're going to learn. You're trying to find little things to make yourself better, but 99% of what you need to know, right? When you show up, 99% of what you're going to know when you leave. A very good test day means you maybe gained 1% of knowledge on something to do setup wise with the car, or maybe even something driving wise. But with Dancing with the Stars, I showed up with a 0%. Maybe I'll give myself 1%. I knew how to walk. I knew how to move my left foot and my right foot independently, and that was about as far as my dance skills had gone. So to show up with 1% knowledge and then try to end the week with 100% to go try to perform in front of a live audience, and then every week it reset and you kind of had to start from scratch. That was an immense challenge. It was mentally very draining. It was physically very draining. But honestly, at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun.
And I remember on several occasions that sitting in the front row, if I'm not mistaken, Alexander Rossi was there.
He came out for a couple. Connor came out for one or two. Yeah, we had a couple people come visit. It was nice.
And was there any pressure on you when you looked there and you go, I better do something good here?
No, I mean the 700 people in the room is bad enough, but then you always remember that there was 10 million watching at home. So that crushed any pressure from anybody in the room.
You have been representing Honda of Canada for quite some time. And there was talk, of course, when you lost your ride, there's a couple Chevy teams that probably like to have him, but I suspected in my mind that wasn't going to happen. It was going to be a Honda team or television.
Yeah, for me, Honda's been an incredible partner in the U.S. and in Canada, and HPD is a great organization to work with. They are racers to the core, and the being part of their manufacturer championships the last couple of years has meant an awful lot to me. And it was always my goal and my desire to maintain that relationship, and I had pretty candid conversations with a lot of those people when the announcement was first made that, my old team was switching to Chevy, and at the time it looked like I was staying there, that it was, it was all kind of beyond my control, and they understood that. And so those doors were always going to be open. Those relationships were always going to be maintained. And then when I was free from that situation, I don't think I had a conversation with the Chevy team. Our sole focus was to get back into a Honda car and kind of maintain that relationship, because, loyalty is very important to me, and they've been incredible partners to me, and I wanted to keep that relationship going.
Well, I think on both races this weekend, I think Honda had 4 of the top 5, and they won both races. So, and I think they're quite a bit ahead in the manufacturer. So it's a good organization, and everybody commented on how their fuel mileage was and how much better it seems to be than the competitor. So good choice, good place to be. And I do remember talking with the director of communications for Honda TE, and he said that, they understood if you had to stay with your commitment and drive Chevy for a year, that was fine. And you're welcome back anytime available. So I thought, well, okay. But I still figured you'd end up in a Honda team somewhere along the way this year. Have you got in the back of your mind that if and when, and it's got to be another 10 or 15 years before you would put your helmet on the shelf and say that's enough, that you want to go into the broadcast end of motorsports?
Yeah, I was really, really fortunate that when I was still in what was called the Atlantic Series, back before the merge on the Champ Car side of everything, I got the opportunity to do some broadcasting that I had no right doing. I had absolutely no business being there. I had no training. I had no experience, but there were 2 different broadcasts that ran simultaneously. The domestic broadcast, which is what was shown basically in North America. So if you were in Canada, the US, or Mexico, you would see, Rick Benjamin and everyone on the domestic feed, Jan Beekes, all those guys. But that same television feed was picked up by, ESPN International and went out to 170 other countries. So if you were outside those 3 and you watched Champ Car racing, you saw this other broadcast, and the lead commentator is Jeremy Shaw, who's, a very respected and decorated commentator and journalist and everything, and one of the founders of the Team USA Scholarship Program, which has produced, a lot of very successful drivers out of it. Your reigning IndyCar champion among them. And Jeremy kind of ran the booth by himself there. And so he would invite people in for a segment or, something during the races. And one race, he invited me after the Atlantic race, because we would race on Sunday mornings before Champ Car. And he invited me into the booth to do 10 or 15 minutes with him at the start of the race. And I went into this, I got out of the Atlantic car, got changed, ran over to the booth, put on this headset, and this producer comes on my ear and says, "All right, we're live to 170 countries. Don't swear. 10, 9, 8. I'm like, whoa, what? And so we go on the air, and I was supposed to stay till like the first commercial break or something. And when that came, Jeremy looked over at me and he goes, "Do you want to stick around for another one?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" I ended up sticking around for the whole race. And at the end of the weekend, he looked over at me and he said, "What are you doing next week after the race?" I said, "Nothing." He goes, "Do you want to come do it again?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" And so for the rest of the season, I would do the Atlantic race, and then I would run up to the booth with Jeremy and commentate on the Champ Car races. And the following year, they actually hired me to do it. So I got this incredible opportunity. I mean, I had friends that had gone to school for broadcast journalism, and at that point I was 21, 2021, something like that. And I had friends in school, and they would get jobs at networks or something, and they were literally fetching coffee and throwing out trash. And I just tripped into a on-air broadcast role for an international It was insane. I didn't deserve it. I shouldn't have been there, but I was very, very lucky, and it gave me a taste of that side of it. And so I always kind of thought that post-driving, getting into the broadcast side would be something I'd have some interest in doing. And with my situation this year and only having 3 races, NBC reached out and they said, "Hey, look, if you want to work the pits for the other races, and Townsend's going to be doing a race during Iowa, so we can put you up in the booth on that weekend and we can kind of try some different stuff. We'd love to have you." And so, here we are.
Well, good choice by NBC, I think. And a thing that I liked listening to yesterday when you were in the pit, you've been there, done that, and you have you can analyze what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, what the effect is of what they're doing, which I think the fans, like to hear, because they say, well, they adjusted the wing. What does that mean? A lot of people don't know. So you tell them what effect it has and why they're doing it, which I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really enjoy. I mean, one of the things I enjoy doing just period is educating people on racing, because there are so many little nuances and intricacies that it's not easy to just pick up on watching it on TV. And whenever I talk to somebody about it and I tell them some of these things, they become very fascinated and very interested, and it helps engage them even more in the race and watching it on TV. And so having the opportunity to do that now to, you know, 1 million people all in one go is awesome. So, I mean, I'm all about trying to grow this sport and try to make IndyCar racing, you know, a household name and something that people just really can't wait to tune into on a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon. And this is kind of a cool opportunity to kind of help tell the story of it.
Well, I think it's important. I know there was one broadcaster who used to get chastised for every race. He'd explain what understeer, oversteer, what a car being loose is, what downforce means. And they'd say, why do you say that every week? Because there's some new people here and they don't know what we're talking about. So tell them so that, oh, here's what's the problem is, understeer, here's what's happening and why they adjust it. I think to me, it makes a lot of sense and has educated a lot of people. So now, when's your next race?
So the next race for me, my calendar is going to be the Indy 500 in August.
And then that's it?
That's it for now. I mean, we're certainly trying to, yeah, that's it for this year at the moment. We're trying to work on finding, you know, additional sponsors to maybe add a race or two in there. You know, the fact of the matter is there's still some potential fluidity in the calendar, right? I mean, with the way the world is going these days, you just don't know if the second half of the season is going to look the exact same as it does today. Obviously, that's what everybody in IndyCar is aiming for, and we're going to try to do. So we have the races that we're trying to make work. But yeah, for right now, Indy is the last one that we've got confirmed.
As a race driver and having been involved in some of the bad part of it, is it hard to be good friends with your fellow competitors? Thinking,
you know, that's interesting because I think different people have a different approach to that, and there definitely seems to be, in my experience, a cultural difference between European Formula racing and North American Formula racing. And I experienced it a bit when I did A1GP for a few seasons, and we certainly had a lot of drivers come over from Europe and join our series. And it seems to be pretty universal that the culture over here is a lot friendlier, and the drivers are, you know, they're closer and the level of camaraderie is higher. And I think that's important, you know, because when I go out on the racetrack wheel to wheel with other drivers at 220 miles an hour, my life is in their hands in a lot of ways. And so I want to know who that person is. I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know what their personality is like. I want them to know who I am. I want them to care about me a little bit, you know, because it might stop them from making a particularly stupid move. So I think it's actually very healthy for the world we live in and the particular set of circumstances that we put ourselves in and week out, to kind of have that at least a little bit of, you know, friendship and camaraderie with each other. And then, you know, on top of that, the second part of it is you travel and spend 20-25 weekends a year by the time you go testing and all the rest of it with these same people. And if you have enemies, or, you know, you could be mad at a guy on a Sunday afternoon, but guess what? He's going to be there next week and the week after that, and probably the season after that, and probably the season after that. So if you start holding grudges with every driver you have a run-in with on the track, you're going to have zero friends by your second year. You know, it's just how it goes. So we're like a big family. We have fights. We hug it out. You talk it out, and then you're all good again.
Well, I found most drivers come from Formula One are really astounded at how open the pit area are, because in Formula One it isn't open. In fact, I knew some sponsors. One of them sponsored a Formula One car. They spent $30 million and never once meet the driver, and never came to one of their exhibitions. So IndyCar is quite different in that, and I think to me it's great. You know, that you know who the drivers are, and people get to see you and shake your hand and have their picture taken with you. I know you, but I don't hang around you, and so I'll say hello and how are you and so forth. And that's not my job to hang on to you and follow you for every step you take. But I watch and listen, and I learn about you and the other guys by just listening to what you say amongst yourselves or to other fans. So I find that, to me, that's very interesting.
Sure.
How did you like the aero screen?
You know what? I definitely had a lot of concerns going into Texas, just because that was probably the scenario we had the least amount of data on as a series. I know they had done a test there, but there was different temperatures, and hadn't been running really in traffic and under the lights, and there's a lot of different elements that were sort of being really properly, rigorously tested for the first time, sort of simultaneously. So I definitely had some concerns, but I have to say, I mean, it passed the test with flying colors. At Texas, there were no issues with glare, there were no issues with pitting, visibility was fine. The heat in Texas was hot, but it was manageable. At the GP, the heat factor was a little more dramatic, and I think highlighted some issues we still have and some things that we still have to work on. But I think overall, when you look at the level of undertaking that it was to design, build, test, and implement something as complicated as this aero screen in the time frame that it was done, everybody at IndyCar and Red Bull Advanced Technologies really did do a tremendous amount of research and a hell of a lot of work to make it work the way it did. So I applaud the project. I think it's been a huge success. I'm getting really used to seeing it on the cars. To be honest, I barely even notice it anymore externally. I think the cars actually look kind of cool. There's like one angle where they don't look awesome, but I think other angles it looks really cool. So no, I think it's been a huge success. Still some tweaking to do. We can always make it better, but overall, I think it's been great.
Well, I think, was it Scott Dixon lost his water line or his airline coming into his helmet, I believe. And of course, he's in top physical condition. It didn't seem to bother him that much. The announcer said, "Oh, this could be a problem." But as it turned out, it worked out. So, and I know they're working on trying to get more air into the car, but it makes not a lot of sense to me, a non-engineer. Take heat from the front of the car at the bottom. You got 120-degree track temperature, and you're bringing that 120-degree air into the car. Although it's a breeze, I suppose it might help. But and you're right, I agree. I don't think it looks all that bad. When the car's going that fast, you really don't notice it. I mean, you can't see the driver's helmet very well anyway, but when they're sitting down as the way you are, you can't see it that much anyhow. So it really, I thought they did a nice job, and have made the cars infinitely more safe, which is the whole idea.
That's object number one.
What about, you came through the ladder system, and Dan Anderson has done a great job, and there's a bunch of you guys that are graduates from there that are now in the series. It's unfortunate that the Indy Lights isn't running this year, but I can be sure that Roger will see to it that it's there next year, and we'll have more competitors. But how important to you in your career moving up was the ladder system, the Road to Indy program?
It was vital, and I mean, I came up before the Road to Indy was structured as it is today. It was a little more scattered and disjointed in my day, but by the time I got to the Indy Lights series, that was obviously, very, very closely connected to IndyCar and racing on the same tracks and, racing in front of the same people. It prepared you so well. And the previous generation Lights car was a tremendous training tool for the previous generation IndyCar, which is what I, made my debut in the IndyCar series. And I think the new generation Lights car, there's a little bit of crossover, but then the new generation Lights car is incredibly well suited to as a training tool for the new generation IndyCar, the DW12. Because you look at guys like Colton Herta and guys like Pato O'Ward that are coming up, Jack Harvey, that did, stints in that Lights car. There was a time during the race at Road America, I think it was on Saturday, may have been on Sunday, I forget, that 4 of the top 6 running on track were Indy Lights graduates of the kind of current generation. I mean, and that was that was excluding Scott Dixon, who obviously ran Indy Lights back in, the early 2000s, late 90s. So I think Marcus Ericsson was the only guy in the top 6 that had never driven a lights car. And it just speaks volumes, for how it prepares drivers for the series and to step up and be instantly quick. I mean, Colton Herta won races his rookie year. Pato O'Ward has now been on the pole. Jack Harvey's 2 consecutive front row starts in Indy GP and Road America. I mean, these guys are jumping in and instantly being competitive against Scott Dixon's, Will Powers, Hunter Race. It's incredible what that series has done, and I really hope it comes back stronger than ever.
Well, I appreciate your time. I think you probably have something more important to do at the moment, probably a dust or vacuum or whatever it is you're doing.
No, you know what? I'm as soon as we get off, I'm walking out the door and heading down the speedway to drive some old cars.
Oh, really? What kind of old?
Yeah.
What kind of old cars?
Like Model Ts and Model A's, and there's a 39 Rolls Royce, and there's a cool segment of maybe I shouldn't even be talking about this, I don't know, but I'm telling you anyway. The museum and the speedway are doing a cool little video series on some of the goodies in the vault there. So I know one driver's already been out and tested a couple, and we're going out there right now and going to go do that. So I do have something to do, but it's way more fun than dusting.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I know I speak for many, many, many thousands of people that admire you and want to see you back more than just one more race this year. So we wish you nothing but the best. And it seems to me that that Andretti has had some issues a little bit, but they seem to be getting them straightened out. Alexander was on the podium yesterday, so they're getting things to where they need to be, and hopefully you'll once again start from the pole at the 500 and one of these days take a Borg Warner home with you.
That's the plan. That is the plan.
Well, thanks for your time. Always enjoy talking with you, and who knows, one of these days you might break down and say yes again. Yes,
sir. Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
My guest has been none other than the mayor of Hinchtown, Mr. I hate to say James Hinchcliffe, but he is the mayor of Hinchtown. That's what most people know him by. 6-time winner in the IndyCar Series, and just a great guy, a great representative of the sport. We'll be back. We've got some more guests lined up, so in the coming days, in a week or so, we'll be coming up with some more. Until then, I want to thanks for watching. This is Don Kay saying, see you next time.